This is Victoria Yurkova speaking to Leon Ferrante, an artist from ArtHouse group in Adelaide. Hi Leon, could you please tell us a little bit about yourself and about your art?
Thank you, Victoria. Yes, look, while I was working a few years ago, I realised that I was very interested in writing poetry and had been writing on many topics and trying to write songs for many years. And I decided to continue with my writing, concentrating mainly on poetry and writing about my feelings and events of the day. And at one point I decided I was no longer interested in working for a corporation that did not value creative input and ideas, and I decided to quit and follow my passion for writing and art and explore my creativity a bit more. And I've now launched myself into my art, which ranges from writing and photography to painting and creating installations. And I am passionate about promoting art and the love of art to others, including my grandchildren. I think it's time for a new renaissance.
Yes, interesting. And as you told me that you're an artist from ArtHouse art group, could you please tell a little bit about this group and what role it plays for you and for other artists in general?
Yes, it's a very important group, and for me, I came from art to art from the outside without any long-term formal training, and expected that I had developed some skills during my school years, and my creativity has never waned, as it was always with me during school and university, and I applied it to my work as an analyst and a programmer. And once I gave in to my need to create and to have control over it, I just do the art, I realised that it was a true passion that I needed to pursue. I did an art course here and there, but mainly it's just developing ideas and using any medium that would work. And I found it difficult to share my works and sell them, and initially entered some competitions with no success at all. And I eagerly went to exhibitions and I immersed myself into the art world and see what others produced, and started contacting other artists and so forth. And then one day I was at an ArtHouse exhibition, and I decided to become a member of that group, and that continues to be a wonderful experience. And I meet and talk with other artists, and we share ideas and techniques and are very supportive of each other. So, and the group also facilitates exhibitions of our work. That's a very positive experience.
And what do you like most in being an artist? What's your motivation to do your art?
Look, I like doing art as it just seems to come naturally as ideas in my head. And for me, art is a composite of many things: writing essays, poetry, taking photographs of scenes and objects, painting with various media on all types of substrates. I also create objects and installations that can exist as art or as functional objects, such as lights and displays. I think art, we've seen that it's developed exponentially away from the days of landscapes in dusty galleries, and now encourages more ideas and more sort of media, different mixed media. And so I like art, and I'm motivated to explore it as a visual poetry that may just display beauty or unusual shapes, or as a message stick for political or critical messages to share.
Yeah.
For some time now, as an aside from doing art with my signature that I exhibit and sell, I've been doing what I call volatile art or protest art, and that is just for fun, and it holds an important message. It is unsigned, and I drop these works in a park or another place to let it interact with the people, and I just walk away, so I don't have to worry about comparison. This lets me share an idea or protest with others, and removes the need to exhibit and be judged and compared with others, and it's very liberating. And I've also been doing art on t-shirts for people as a distraction from the art that sits on walls.
For how long are you doing your art? I think it's not really new for you.
Looking back, I think I've always done art and created stuff. I think we all do that. As a child, I spent time copying and tracing comics to draw my versions of superheroes with bulging muscles, with careful pencil shading and so forth. And I'm very inquisitive and have destroyed many working objects to find what makes them tick. And somehow I learnt to make stuff as well. And so I think that's a natural thing for children to be inquisitive and do stuff. And so that's always with us. I recall doing projects at school and drawing and painting scenes from other countries and wars in large project books and so forth. And a lot of the work that I did as a child and as a teenager has been lost along the way, but it's still somewhere inside. I don't think we ever lose that. And for me, the need for art is primal. It's like an animal. And I think we always seem to return to the art. And I'm excited that now I can somehow channel more energy into art and explore it more.
Thank you. And previously you mentioned that you studied art. And could you tell a bit more about it? And do you think it's important?
Yeah, look, I haven't studied a lot. At high school I did some art and mechanical drawing and calligraphy, and these were part of the structure for work at school. But they were okay, they were basic, but they were not seen as being important parts of the curriculum, even though they were examined, and I did quite well. I'd done a WEA course, painting in gouache, which was very useful. But that's about it, and I think art should be developed rather than taught at school, so that we develop what we like to do rather than just being forced to do everything else, regardless of the fact that we need to learn techniques. Art seems to be neglected, I think, at school, and it seems to become invisible after the early primary years as the sciences are pushed down our throats. And I'm a science graduate, and I've got a Bachelor of Science and honours majoring in physiology. That's great, but art is more important because it contains the art and the philosophy that is the precursor and leads to the sciences. And I don't think a lot of people really understand that. They tend to be, science is important, but art is not. And I think it's actually the other way around. So I think art is vital to me, and I promote it to many, including my grandchildren, and I'd like to promote other artists as well.
I feel that you have some philosophy standing behind your art. Is it like this?
Yes, it is.
And what's your philosophy and how it shows in your artworks?
Yes, I mean, it would take days to really talk about it in depth, but I've got a number of philosophies as I explore the world and our society, and I believe we should revolutionise our education system, which drags students through years of training and ignores their gifts and abilities which they could develop. I believe we are killing the planet and ourselves, not just with smoke and plastic, but with consumerism and techno-stupidity, all the gadgets that we have and all the stuff that takes our time. Technology was designed to help us, but now it slows us down, controls us, and allows us to abuse each other inside a screen. I'm very strong about that. Our politicians are so bad that, as Huxley said, we would never wish to choose such incapable people to run our society. The youth, they've got the answers, they're smart, they can see the problems and the solutions, and yet they get no say as the politicians wreck the world. I'm passionate about our world and our youth and the power of the people, and I work to defend that. And a number of my philosophies and thoughts enter my work. It's just part of what I do, and sometimes it's conscious, sometimes subconscious, and I'll continue with that.
Leon, what do you want to do with your art now, and what is planned for future?
Tough question. I want to continue to develop art and ideas and try to share them with others. It might be a photo of something ordinary in a park, or on the street, something we pass every day and never look at. Or I may design something that someone can touch and enjoy, that lights up or plays music. My guiding principle is to try and use found objects and recycle and reuse the many things that people discard. And I would like to sell more art, but it's a passionate hobby, not a business. So my wish to sell art is only so someone can have it to enjoy. I will continue dropping art and protests in the parks, as that is an exercise in democracy, and it detaches art from the mechanics of selling and possessing and so forth. And I'd like to do more interactive art for exhibits and for parks as well. And I'd like to do more t-shirts and collaborate with other artists, but time is the problem, the enemy.
What would you like to see for children in terms of their art development?
For me, simplistically, art is something that children do and they want to do it. So it's intrinsic, it's just there for children. And they think they want to be on the phone and on the computer doing all that other stuff that sucks up their time. But that's because marketing forces them to do that. Art will relax and distract them and allow them to express themselves, not what they are told to express. So it's vital for us to build a society that respects and encourages art, and to install the structures that provide the development, the facilitation and access for them to make it easy and just do it. So, not to complicate this thing and make it hard. And children are left out of the art world because of their age and their stature. So they seldom join art groups or are seen at exhibitions, and I think that must change. Has to.
What is your influence in your art, and what are your favorite subject materials? What do you like to use most?
I'm not sure what really influences me. It's hard to tell. It changes from day to day. My mind seems open to this crazy universe out there that I seem to need to express my thoughts and ideas. And sometimes the thoughts are just simple phrases, almost like dad jokes, which sounds strange, but that's what it's like. Sometimes I have a striking vision and I have seen something either in reality or in my dreams. Other artists inspire me with their ideas and ability to make something out of nothing, and it's kind of like magic. So I see what other artists do as being an influence on me. And I don't often think about materials, but I just try and get the expression going, and then from that point, then I use whatever materials I think I need to use for that process. And often you don't know until you actually get started. And not everything actually works. Sometimes you have to throw things away, But failure, I think, is the precursor of success. I do love photography, as it allows me to capture something in an instant that I may never see again and may never be able to paint. But I am enjoying experimenting with many mediums and different substrates and techniques.
I understand that artist's life is not easy and artist's way is not just simple. But what's the biggest difficulty you met as an artist?
Yeah, I've got a big long list. Look, I found it hard to break into the art world, as it can be a little bit exclusive, and that's quite obvious. There's famous artists who sit up on high, and then there's the emerging artists who aspire to be like them. And then there's the other artists near the bottom who are invisible but do quite interesting work. And it's been difficult to break through and discover these people, but now I have decided I will help them become visible, not famous, but just visible so we can see them. I think that's important. And also there's a certain subjective tone to art competitions with judges shortlisting based on their criteria and their bias. And it helps when exhibitions and competitions are more inclusive and allow display without shortlisting. I think that's important. And also I find it hard to come to terms with the categorisation of exhibits or exhibitions that use terms that indicate age or other characteristics that have got nothing to do with the art. It's a problem.
Did you participate in some art prizes and did you receive some awards?
Yeah, look, I'm happy to say that I've received no awards for my work to this day. When I first started a few years ago, I entered 5 competitions and got 5 rejections. That's when I first started. And I was upset, actually, until I realised that it was a perfect score of 5 out of 5. So I looked at it as a positive thing, and it hit me that this failure was my success and that I had entered competitions I would never have done, and I'd also been motivated to try different subjects and materials, so it was a valuable experience even though it was a failure. Getting an award is a wonderful experience, but in itself it doesn't shine. What shines is the work for the ability to express an idea, a vision, and the courage to share it with others and deal with the pain of judgment and comparison.
By the end of our interview, I would like to ask, how do you know doing your art that it's time to finish, to stop?
I don't know if it's just me, but I think that a lot of artists have that same problem. It depends what kind of work you're doing. Sometimes you know right away that you finish the work and you sign. But sometimes you let it sit unfinished until you get the courage to, or the energy to finalise it and to ensure it becomes what it was meant to be, that was in your head or whatever. And sometimes you only have an abstract thought and you don't know what it's meant to be until it hits you that you now must be finished, that you've done what you were meant to do. And sometimes you look at it and think something's missing, and then you pick up a brush and you add some strokes and you totally change the context of what was there. It may help or it may totally stuff it up. I think we've all done that. You add something and go, oh, now it's lost what was there from before and I can't go back.
Yes.
But it's an interesting part of the art process, I think.
Thank you, Leon, for sharing your story, your ideas, your thoughts. I think it was really interesting.
Thank you, Victoria. Thank you. Pleasure.